Bernie Sanders' interview with the New York Daily News editorial board is getting a whole lot of buzz, a whole lot of media attention, specifically from the corporate media. Headlines like CNN's, Sanders feeling media heat after new interview. Vanity Fair, Bernie Sanders admits he isn't sure how to break up big banks. The Washington Post, the New York Daily News interview was pretty close to a disaster for Bernie Sanders. And The Atlantic, how much does Bernie Sanders know about policy? So they're all railing on him. They're saying he doesn't know anything pretty much. He didn't know anything about foreign policy, which they already alleged that months ago. You know, he only talks about domestic policies and Wall Street, breaking up the big banks. But now they're saying, oh man, he doesn't even know anything about that, right? So we took a look at this transcript, heard the audio. Their analysis was horrible.
Well, I think their analysis hangs on the idea that people will not go read the transcripts for themselves and actually see the line of questioning.
And just pay attention to what this, the corporate media is feeding you, that Bernie Sanders doesn't know anything. This whole interview is weak sauce, okay? There is nothing damaging in it about Bernie Sanders. Nothing damaging at all. The interviewers tried to trap him in so many ways. And look, we're all for, because we call out the media for, softball questions, not challenging candidates, not asking follow-up questions. So we're all good with tough questions. But this was something more. This was something completely different. So, an example, they asked him, name 3 companies that destroy the fabric of America. Is it the companies that are destroying the fabric of America, or is it Congress that's allowing them to?
Exactly. These companies, or these big, huge, mega conglomerates, their lobbyists help Congress craft legislation that benefit them.
Yes. It's not about the corporation per se. It's about the laws. It's about Congress letting them get away with it. It's about us not having a livable minimum wage. It's about them stacking their money overseas and not being taxed on it. It's about all these things. So it's not about the corporation or the company. It is about the laws that let them so-called destroy the fabric of America.
Now, that trails into the next line of questioning the interviewer posed toward Bernie Sanders, where they pretty much says, well, are you at least balanced on the issue of, these trade deals in regards to corporations trying to compete overseas? Basically, if you just look at the question, it's framed in a way that lets me know that the interviewer thinks that Bernie Sanders should have a more balanced view on these companies going overseas. And to me, when they say the word compete and they have a competitive advantage, to me that just means they have the ability to exploit people for the sake of taking away jobs from Americans.
Yes.
Because now they don't have to keep up with regulations.
Or if it's not taking away jobs from Americans, it's making Americans earn a much lower wage than they should.
Exactly.
Because they're trying to compete.
Exactly. Like, they were making it sound like Bernie Sanders is just completely off the rails because, these companies have to compete. And if these companies can't compete, then, our economy suffers. I'm like, no, their profits suffer.
Yeah. They asked a question about terrorist organizations. Specifically, they said, oh, okay, let's go to Hamas. What is it? Is it a terrorist organization?
What was his answer?
Yes.
And guess what? They didn't go further. You know why?
No, they went
further.
Hezbollah. They said,
yeah.
What about Hezbollah? And he said, yes.
I think, and again.
Why would you ask those questions?
But guess what? They didn't truly have a follow up to that.
No.
They just went to the next.
To throw it out.
Yeah, they just wanted to throw it out there. It was like, let's see what he says. Let's see what he says.
So the viewer or the reader, I assume that the reader would think, if they don't know anything about this, they were like, well, hold on, why did they ask them that? Maybe he didn't think they were terrorist organizations. Maybe he's flubbed that answer before.
Well, the reason why they asked that question is because they know his position on Israel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so, they asked about Israel too. They were like, what about Israel, rolling back their, how they build on settlements that they shouldn't be building on? What's your position? And he has the current U.S. position which is that Israel should not be doing that. This interviewer is asking him, well, as a president, you're kind of changing the dynamics by having that position. No, he's not. Because that's the current American position. So then they asked him, what specifically could you do about that? What in the treaties or whatever could you do about that? And so he says, well, look, if I had a piece of paper right here, maybe I could give you a better answer. And he went into an answer. But are we to assume that a president has information about every single thing and down to the minute detail? Because a president has to have their head in about 1,000 games, right? We can equate it to a head coach, right? There's special teams, there's cornerbacks, there's a quarterback, there's offensive line. There's a whole bunch of different areas that a head coach has to be involved in. But of course, they can't be the specialist in it because that would take too much time. President Obama. Does President Obama know the finance world as much as Elizabeth Warren does? Absolutely not, because that's her specialty. So a president has a cabinet, they have advisors, they have a whole bunch of people to turn to when decisions need to be made. So it's about your vision, it's about your judgment, and not judgment in that you can make the right decision, but it's about who you put in place as well. I remember at a debate, Hillary Clinton was raving about how she felt very fortunate to be in the Situation Room when they were deciding
Bin Laden.
Yeah, when they were going to go get Bin Laden and kill him, right? And she was glad that, she was in that situation and that she was one of the ones that could provide Obama with intelligence and assistance on deciding on that matter. Right? So it's not just about one person, the president, deciding and knowing everything about what's going on.
Honestly, I think, you're going deep into it. I think, honestly, they understand it's a polarizing issue and they just wanted him to just jump on one side.
Yeah.
Like Palestinians have no rights versus Palestinians should get all the land back.
Right.
I think they were expecting an answer that would be very divisive, and it wasn't, because he did say, okay, Israel's there. Okay, we're at this point now. Okay, yes, they have a right to exist because they're there.
Right.
But also, they do not have the right to keep expanding into territories that are not there.
Exactly.
That's a pretty balanced issue.
And the current U.S. position. Mainstream media, they're paying a whole lot of attention to this, right? But there's another issue that kind of manifested itself just over the last few days. Something called the Panama Papers.
And is someone implicated in that?
Yeah, a major candidate. Somebody with a lot of media attention. You would think they'd be talking about this, right? Mainstream media is a big issue. It deals with corruption all across the globe by the rich and the powerful leaders. The prime minister of Iceland has already stepped down because of it. Putin has been implicated. Back in the day, 2011, when Barack Obama and then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was pushing this trade deal with Panama, let's see, there were some people that surmised that this was a bad idea because Panama's economy is so small, it would not have any benefit. There would be no benefit to having a trade deal with Panama and the U.S. There's no benefit to our economy. Their economy is too small. It would not bring jobs. The only thing it could provide is tax havens for the rich and the powerful, because the laws in Panama make it so that it is easy to hide your money there and not be bound by any laws or anything like that. Their banking regulations are very secretive. So that's exactly what happened. Bernie Sanders understood this and he talked out loud about it. The trade deal went through because of Barack Obama and then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. So what happened with the Panama Papers?
it's kind of out there,
yes,
but it's kind of being buried.
Yeah, it has revealed, like we said, it has revealed the corruption. So I think it would only stand to reason that we should be talking about this and talking about how, wow, Hillary Clinton, you were in favor of another horrible trade deal that had massive implications. You're talking about millions, probably billions of dollars being stashed, tax evasion, money laundering. Hillary Clinton, you were an advocate for this?
I think you're asking the corporate media.
Where are the questions?
I think you're asking the corporate media to be way too responsible.
Way too responsible.
I think you're asking too much, and I think them focusing on some interview that they know people will not go read the transcripts of is more important.
Yeah, let's pay attention to Bernie Sanders in a setup interview.